Hello and welcome to 60 Minutes or Less, a podcast from Birthday Cake for Breakfast. I'm Andy Hughes, and for episode 55, we keep it local, welcoming Robin Richards of Manchester-based art pop collective Dutch Uncles. Principal composer in Dutch Uncles for nearly 2 decades, a band The Guardian once described as Stockport's answer to Talking Heads, Richards is also a composer for his own endeavours, looking to bridge the gap between classical and popular music traditions. Off the back of a number of releases under his belt as a solo artist, including film scores and public art productions, in September 2025, Richards released his long-awaited debut solo album Taproots. To mark the occasion, we had Robin visit Birthday Cake for Breakfast HQ, aka My Front Room, for an in-person interview ahead of its release. We spoke about the new record, as well as West Didsbury and Chorlton Football Club, the joys of social media, riding the wave of Oasis hype, and being big in Budapest. We also got the scoop on the next move from Dutch Uncles, so listen out for that. If you like the episode, let us know. Follow us on your favourite streaming platform and follow Birthday Cake for Breakfast on all the socials. Right, onto Robin Richards. Enjoy. I was stuck on a bit of a video shorts internet doom scroll yesterday and was hit with a lot of podcasters talking rubbish in these plush studios, with neon signs and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, inviting you round, that this must just be completely different. And I didn't know whether you'd be expecting, that sort of, and I just thought it would be hilarious if you arrived to this huge space, where there was 3 dudes just on the couch and shooting the shit. And I just thought that's such a strange dynamic, to have that sort of thing. And yeah, this seems very more, real,
yeah,
very more normal. Have you had to do much in the way of this, when you do interviews and stuff? Have you ever had to go out there and speak to people and it's been like this or it's been like that sort of thing?
I mean, I suppose with the band, there were more kind of corporate style interviews we'd do. And yeah, they were always, I don't know, feel a bit kind of try hard in a sense. So, anything that feels a bit more real, like interviews in a pub or, backstage or whatever, feel a lot more genuine, just to start with as well. You're on the same page as someone at that point rather than going into some elaborate palace for an interview.
Some plush studio. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the last time we interviewed you was with Duncan, with Dutch Uncles.
Yeah.
And it was almost a decade ago, and it was memorable as I was cycling to Chorlton and it was when Storm Doris was on.
Oh, okay.
Or rather, when Storm Doris was happening.
Yeah.
So there were branches falling from the trees, and it was very Wizard of Oz. And obviously, it's a lot more calmer now.
Yeah.
But that seems, like a lifetime ago with Big Balloon and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So to be in a position where that was your 5th album with Dutch Uncles.
Yeah.
And now we're here with your debut album. It does seem like a long time coming for you. So it must be pretty cool to be able to be in that position now where you've got this press run for yourself, putting out that new record.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. And then basically, alongside the band, especially during Oh Shudder and the Big Balloon campaigns, I had a few commissions, kind of started off my kind of solo career in a sense by doing a few live film score projects. And so doing that and then getting picked up by Pra Recordings, not long after Big Balloon. They suggested I do an EP to start with. So I did that and then had, again, more project work. So every time I kind of considered doing a full solo album, it always kind of got pushed back by other projects, which is fine because it meant, it gave me time to work on those. And then when it came round to thinking about it again, obviously the band got back together during lockdown and we were like, well, let's do this. So, but yeah, no, it feels really good to get this out as a full body of work, and I'm really proud of it. So yeah, hope people like it,
And getting, Pra on board as well, the label, they seem to be really finger on the pulse of a lot of stuff, and they seem to be a really forward thinking label. Has it been great just being involved with them and being able to do all the stuff that you've been able to do as a solo entity?
Yeah, for sure. I suppose the whole thing about Pra Recordings being Stephen Bass's offshoot of Moshi Moshi meant that it could be his passion project, really. He could release whatever he wants. So some of the stuff they put out is extremely avant-garde. So they give, complete creative freedom to do whatever you want, you know. And yeah, so I've been lucky with the releases I've done previously. So they put out a couple of my soundtrack albums and the EP, like I was saying before. But yeah, there's no pressure, you know. But I think I got a message from Stephen when I put the first single out for this album, and he was like, I can't believe it's been like 6 years since we put out the EP, and it's like this is the first album. It's like, and I didn't even think about it being that long. But yeah, again, like I said, there's no pressure from either side, so that's a good you know relationship to start with. Yeah.
And it must be nice to be able to have that sort of relationship, you know, because some artists might not speak to the person who's the head of the label or what have you. But for him to be like so in conversation with yourself and flexible with you, that must be nice to have that relationship.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you know, yeah, every time I go to London, I make sure I meet up with him. I tend to meet up with Ollie and Matt from Memphis Industries as well. So you know, the same sort of thing with the band's label and with my label. It's like, yeah, there's strong relationship, but I suppose it's because we've known them for years and years, but it's like, yeah, there's trust there from both sides. So
sure. It's funny, like with the field music guys and with Slug and with yourselves, you always see like Memphis Industries and these labels, but you never really, you know, you never think it's like people, you know, like people you just go to the pub with and stuff. So like, it must be, again, nice, you know, that you've been able to nurture that as well, to not just have them be the label, to be people that you know you can actually go down the pub with and meet up with.
For sure. Yeah, like Ollie and Matt, you know, we're really close with them. Obviously, we've been with Memphis for like 15 years now, and even in between, you know, that sort of hiatus period, we were still in touch. There was a brief period of time where like Ollie was like, yeah, I think it's the right time for a break, and then like 6 months later, he's like, I think it's time for a new album. It's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, no, it's yeah, they're really nice guys. I remember when Ollie first came up to Manchester, and he came to the studio, and then we took him out for a few drinks at Common, and like Bez was just at the bar, and he was like, "Is this what happens when you come to Manchester? You just like bump into legends of the scene?" It's like, yeah, pretty much actually. It's either like some from Coronation Street or someone from the Happy Mondays will be around, you know. But it's funny. So that was the first time we met him, and it's like, you know, we could tell there was an instant bond. And obviously they worked with Field Music, who were idols of ours. So, you know, that was great to get on the same label as them.
To have that connection as well, yeah. It's funny with Bez, I remember, I can't recall what it was for, but they did like a Manchester day, and it was like in town, and like there was all sorts of stalls and events in the Northern Quarter. And this is when Salita was still there, so it was a long while ago.
Yeah.
And like Bez was just walking through the crowd with like his kid. And then, like, when he saw a camera, he became that guy. But he was just, like, normal, you know, just walking through the street. So I bet there are people like your man from Memphis who found that Bez rather than just the normal guy who just lives in, you know, the north.
Yeah. He didn't have his maracas, but, you know, he was sort of,
yeah. So, you know, we were talking about Big Balloon and the record. And with Dutch Uncles, you were doing, like, promotional stuff for the records, like the fan-friendly go-karting event, the Almost Famous Burger, well back in the day. When you're doing like a solo record, or even like the last Dutch Uncles record, is there ever a thought about, oh, we've got to do another thing again, like the non-league sponsorship with West, or is it all right that you're able to just go, maybe we won't do that this time around, you know?
We always try to think about something. Yeah, I think, you know, since the, like I say, since the Almost Famous Burger, you know, the press we got from that was really good.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I suppose it was the early days for Almost Famous as well. Like the buzz around that place was insane in like 2013.
Yeah.
And so off the back of that, it was like, okay, we need to do something for the next one. So yeah, we did West Isbury Chorlton, and then like you say, the go-karting. And then when it came to True Entertainment, it was difficult to think of something. So we just did West again.
Yeah.
I think it's because, you know, 10 years on, it was a much bigger entity. You know, when we did the launch for Oh Shudder there, I think there were only about 80 people there in total. You know, they're getting crowds of 1,000 now, which is amazing. And yeah. So same for my solo records. It always chatting with our manager Matthew about quirky things to do. You know, for like the EP I brought out a few years ago, Siop Shop in town made a bespoke donut, which was created using themes which were on the record as well. So yeah, there will be something, but I won't give it away yet.
I mean, with this record, the themes that we know about is very like, I suppose you could put like something to do with trees on the actual donut itself, but in terms of like flavors and stuff, I suppose you're a bit, it's the themes of like internet addiction and stuff like that, so it's a bit
Yeah,
difficult to
exactly. You make the donut look like a tree. What we'll figure that out.
yeah,
But
leave it to shop.
yeah,
Yeah. How does it feel, putting the record out as a solo artist without a band behind you? Because again, you've already put your records out, but with this being the debut album proper, how does it feel like, standing out there with just yourself on the record rather than Dutch Uncles or rather than, like a soundtrack or what have you?
yeah. I suppose it is a bit more daunting in that you're putting yourself in a position where people can critique you, and it's like, but that's what it's all about. You make the music, and if you want people to hear it, then you have to get it out there. And I've never like been completely on my own in terms of like the production of the music. I've with all my solo stuff, I've worked with Brendan Williams, who produced like 4 of the band's records as well. And so my collaboration with him has very much been, I've worked on his projects, he's worked on mine. So it's always good to have someone else to bounce off as well. Like I find chatting to like other solo artists who work completely independently, they can get to a point where they never finish their projects because they're constantly going back. Whereas if you actually chatting to someone else, you can like say, I think this is done. Do you think it's done? It's like, I think it's done. Yeah, it's probably done. So yeah, it's like, I'm putting it out in the world as my own thing, but there are other members involved with it, if you get me. So
You've got help and you've got collaborations.
exactly,
and
yeah.
such. Is that important for you to have that? By the sounds of it, it is, in the sense that you could be talking to no one, like you say. Is it important to have that collaboration and, to work with others to come to get these ideas out there?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm on record as well, like working with Chris Illingworth from Go Go Penguin. So he played piano on the soundtrack records, and he's played piano on this album. He's amazing, amazing pianist, but also really amazing to work with. And yeah, I think the thing is when it comes to performing this record as well, I'll never just do it on my own. I'll have a band, and yeah, no, I think it is important for collaboration to be. I mean, if it obviously other artists are different, but like for me, collaboration is really important. And like any other kind of artistic project I've done has usually involved collaboration as well.
And how was it with this record, having the videos as well, because you had the work of the experimental London dance duo who helped you out. I say helped you out, who you collaborated with for the videos themselves. So how was that? Because your solo stuff does seem very visual as well as the audio side of things. Mm-hmm. So was that kind of cool, being able to collaborate in that fashion with something that's not so much musical?
Yeah, I knew I wanted some kind of visual identity for the record, and I worked with Faye, one of the dancers, when we played with the Power Orchestra last year. So it was part of the BBC Proms. I was asked to play guitar alongside the Power Orchestra for this like immersive performance, which was amazing thing to be part of. And it was a composition by Oliver Vibrans, who's another Chorlton-based artist, amazing composer. So he asked me to play guitar on this project. And there were 5 dancers as well involved with it, and Faye was one of the dancers. And yeah, the dancers were incredible as well. So I just got chatting to her after one of the performances and saying about video ideas, and she'd done quite a few music videos in the past, and she was up for it, and she had her duo with Hannah as well, Clydo, and yeah, basically I got talking ideas, and she was like, okay, I think this is something we can work with. I kind of discussed the themes of the record, the themes of the 2 tunes in particular, and yeah, they choreographed it all themselves, and we did the shoot in like half a day for both videos, and they were just absolutely incredible, amazing to work with. And it's good to give someone else the sort of creative freedom as well, because I wouldn't know what to tell them to do, whereas they are professional dancers, and so they using the themes and kind of going with it in a sort of movement way is I think works. I really like how it works, so it's for other people to kind of judge it, but yeah.
I mean, I thought it was funny as well with the fact that because I'd seen the video, I'd not seen the behind the scenes, that they did it like triple speed, didn't they, in terms of the movements?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then it was like slowed down for the, for like the lead teaser. And I just thought that was really interesting that, that was the vision as well, to then be able to expand that. Is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that was director's idea. Patrick, Patrick King, he kind of came up with the idea of doing it at double speed. So I mean the song's only 75 seconds anyway, so it was just like record the whole thing in 40 seconds. Obviously we did more than one take, and like doing it in like quite a busy park in North London meant that there were a few takes where confused cyclists would be coming past as these fairly erratic dance movements were going past them. It's like, what the hell is going on? And then Patrick did the kind of edits to sort of make it otherworldly in a sense. And I think it works really well. It's one of those, like, I remember when he sent a sort of unedited version, so where he's just kind of pulling back and we're watching the dancers in the sort of slowed down, and it's like their movements are so in sync that you can hardly tell it's slowed down. Do you know what I mean? It's only once you see the sped up version, you're like, oh yeah, there is a slightly weird movement to it. And actually, when you see the speed of the cyclists and the people walking behind, it's like, oh yeah, this is different. Yeah.
It must be interesting in a sense because, you said about the confused cyclist, but compared to, say, when you put a video out for the first Dutch Uncles record, now that's so common to have, influences in the wild. So I imagine seeing something like that, someone might not bat an eyelid when they don't know it's, a video for like an actual record.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That is a good point. You do see weirder things in public now.
On that point, when the first Dutch Uncles record came out, it was a lot more different to putting out a record in 2025 and even putting out a record when you put your EP out. You've said, about the fact that you've got to put the record out and people are going to review it and people are going to listen to it and critique it and such. But how is it putting out a record now compared to back then, and, through these different changes that you've experienced?
Obviously, you just got to think about social media loads more than you used to. I mean, like thinking back to Big Balloon, which was obviously like 8 years ago. Yeah, we didn't need to think near as much about that. You kind of just let the campaign do its bit. Like I suppose the record labels had more power. Radio play was more influential in terms of like ticket sales, which I think it probably still is for a band like us. But it's like, in terms of like real, sort of spread of appeal and how you're going to get your name out there, you do have to do stuff that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable. I mean, we're not going to do any weird TikTok things because we don't have the time or the inclination to do it. But you just basically have to sell your soul a bit to push it, which is just part of the game now.
Do you think like enthusiasm for that might have been different if you were 15 years younger, let's say, rather than
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and thinking back to True Entertainment as well, like we did the odd bit, and I just couldn't kind of gauge how to. I mean, I never used TikTok. A few of the other guys do, but it's just like, if we post the same thing on TikTok as we did on Instagram, and how they gain different traction, and then we post the same video on Facebook where we've got tons more followers, and then no one will see it because of the algorithm decides that no one's going to see that. So in that sense, it's frustrating because it's kind of an unknown as well.
Yeah,
and it's something you have to, unless you're working with like a social media expert, you don't know exactly what's going to hit, or again, it's all about following certain trends, isn't it, on TikTok and Instagram, and staying ahead of the game in that sense. But it was an eye opener for True Entertainment to kind of battle with that, where in previous albums we hadn't. And same, things like Twitter, just kind of it doesn't seem like there's any point in using it to promote music anymore. It's just sort of,
it's been completely nuked, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just it must be, for someone who wants to focus on creating the music and gigging, it must just be such a, I know, like you say, you have to do it and it's part of the game, and it would have been similar with like going on TV and stuff in the 80s and the 90s, but like it does just seem, for an artist's point of view, unless they like doing that stuff, such a waste of time, doesn't it? But obviously it's not a waste of time for fan content and stuff. But
of course, but yeah, I suppose it's when you see, like I say, especially younger bands, you know, lip syncing to their own song over and over again in different locations. It's like, God, it must be so like soul destroying to do that over and over, and you know, and that's just on the off chance it might kind of strike gold and it might become a hit. So yeah, you know, we're still kind of trying to do it on the merit of the music, but obviously that's harder if the algorithms or the, you know, Spotify playlists aren't allowing as many people to hear it as would have done 10 years ago. So yeah, you know, we still, like I say, radio play is important, and yeah, trying to think of novel ways of getting your name out there without being uncomfortable about it, I suppose. That's the thing.
yeah, it's the radio thing is interesting because with Dutch Uncle's Radio 6, you know, you hope that that's a goer and you hope that you can, you know, get on 6, and usually that is the case. But with this new record and with your solo stuff, you're able to go to like the mid-30s dreamland and be on Radio Free, I saw, which must be great, you know, in terms of not just getting people to hear your music, but being able to just go between stations and such because of the different type of music. That must be like quite a boon, you know, for you to be able to appear on different stations and such.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, to be able to straddle both sides of the experimental, you know, music world is great. And as like DJs like, you know, Elizabeth Alker, who has shows on Radio 3, are really good for, you know, showcasing, you know, more interesting esoteric music. And yeah, and that crossover is important for, like you say, for different audiences. Can't just be on the Freak Zone, although I'd be absolutely fine with that, you know.
Yeah, Riley and Co can't always do
Of
all of
course,
it.
yeah.
It's a lot of heavy lifting. But it's interesting because like I don't know if you've got a dog, but we stick Radio Free on for the dog because it's just classical most of the time. But like coming back from a gig the once, and I don't know whether they were doing a session, but ex-Easter Island Head were doing something, and it was just on Radio Free.
Yeah.
So the dog would just sat here listening to ex-Easter Island Head.
Oh, nice.
And it was like, oh, that's cool because it feels very, you know, Six music and very Freak Zone.
Yeah.
But there they were just on Radio Free, and the dog was very blissed out, you know, listening to that.
That's great.
So that was interesting. Yeah. In terms of ex-Easter Island Head as well, funnily enough, I saw on the socials, you know, what we were just talking about, with some of the record production, putting crocodile clips on the guitar strings and then striking it with a pencil, which I don't know if you've seen any of their stuff, but
yeah, it's all like prepared guitar, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And was there much of that in the way of experimentation with this record, you know, for you? Did you go to a ex-Easter Island Head space other than the clips, or was it very much your normal bread and butter?
That was the only kind of prepared guitar we worked with. We did quite a bit of work with prepared piano, which we've done previously as well, actually, you know, kind of muting strings, putting different objects on the strings to kind of get different echoes and reverberations in there as well. And that's fun. You know, I'm working with Chris from Gogo Penguin, I was saying before, he does loads of that stuff with his band. So yeah, it's fun, you know, see what different weird noises you can get with the piano. Hopefully that comes across, because I think, you know, when I first played Conducti to some friends, they're like, oh, what's that synth using at the start? And I'm like, no, that's piano. That is just a piano with muted strings. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's different. It's like, yeah, I think I did it on some other tunes before, but it's it's something that it's worth playing around with. I think we did it a bit with the band as well on Oh Shudder, and it's usually stemmed from ideas that Brendan's kind of worked with before. But yeah, always up for experimenting and, you know, pushing the instruments that I can play to to their limits. Yeah.
Is there anything you've embarked on in that sort of respect where either one of you has just said, let's stop, you know, hitting that now, or let's just put an end to that?
Yeah, I'm sure there has been. I can't think of anything in particular, but yeah, there's definitely been like days where we've been in the studio. It's been like, that's not worked, has it? That's not been good. Or there's been things we've sampled that's like, yeah, this is a bit on the nose, or this is kind of a bit out of context, you know. So yeah, there's definitely trial and error that goes involved. Not everything is smooth sailing.
I think you're in a lucky spot as well that you're experienced in this sort of thing. I imagine you can lose days on that sort of stuff if you're not quite sure what you're looking towards, the end product.
Yeah, for sure. I think yeah, been doing it for a long time, and finding the time for it is really important, and making sure you're not wasting time on endless wild experimentation is important as well.
Yeah. So in that respect, you have been doing this for a long time. Do you ever go into it where you've got ideas in mind for either project? Commission's different, I assume, but with you said about putting out the debut EP and then putting things on hold for the Dutch Uncles record. Do you ever go into it knowing what's going to be what when you come with ideas? Or do you think, this is definitely Dutch Uncles, this is definitely solo,
I mean, there's definitely tunes that I've written for the band that haven't worked and have ended up becoming solo tunes. It's like there's no point if I'm digging them, or if other people are. There's no point just chucking them in the bin. And then there's some tunes that I've sort of sold for library music or whatever. But quite often, I'll start writing something and then I could imagine Duncan singing on it, basically. So if it's kind of going in that direction, it's like, okay, I will make this into more of a song shape rather than a piece of music, like unspecific piece of music. So if it's going to be a song, I'll send it to Duncan and then we'll see if it works, basically. Yeah, I think, and it's weird because even during the hiatus, I was still doing that. It's like, oh, this feels like it could be a comeback tune. I'll send it to Duncan. He's like, I'm not. He just wasn't in the space at that time. So it's good to have the projects on the go at the same time. I mean, obviously I finished this album a few months ago, but still kind of having the band on the go. We're gradually working on a new album, but it's good to have other projects to kind of not be disappointed if something doesn't make the cut for the band, if you get me.
Yeah, for sure. Was it kind of? Did you ever get the impression from Duncan that you needed to just chill out on the sending him?
Yeah, definitely. I was definitely probably in the 6 months after we finished touring Big Balloon, just because we'd been in a cycle of album for 10 years, it bookended our 20s basically. We were either writing and recording an album or we were touring it. So finished the album and just kind of would assume, oh, let's just do the next one. And then we started it, and then it got to a point, it's like, should we just put foot on the brakes for a bit here? And think about Duncan said, he's like, I'm not sure if that was the right time to do it, but you can always look back in hindsight. But yeah, it got to a few months in, and it was like, yeah, maybe I will give it a break for a bit. And it was good actually, because it kind of coincided with a couple of pretty decent commissions, which kept me very busy for most of 2019. So the timing was good for that. Then obviously the pandemic happened, and then we started the band again. So I mean, in terms of a band hiatus, it wasn't that long. It felt quite long, and it might have felt long for fans of the band, but in general, I suppose it was only really 2.5 years.
Yeah. I suppose as well, the fact that you're actually friends probably.
That was the thing, we were still hanging out, we were still going to watch West, we were still going to the pub, we were going to Duncan's quizzes. Yeah, it wasn't like we were split for any differences. And obviously we'd talk about what we were going to do next, but then it would be like, but yeah, let's not right now. And yeah, so I think it's probably it's testament to our friendship really that we've kind of got through that, done another album, another tour, and I wanted to do another one again because we realised that we quite enjoy it as well. I think that's another thing.
I think that's the main reason to do something like that, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Quick break in the interview just to give you a heads up about some of our previous episodes. From our first episode to our latest, we featured interviews with the likes of Proto Martyr, The Lovely Eggs, Anna Erhard, Chat Pile, The Future Heads, Public Service Broadcasting, Gang of Four, Joshua Idehen, the Jesus Lizard, and even snooker legend Steve Davis. Treat yourself and go back through the episodes. Be sure to tell all your friends and comrades too. Enjoy. So, we kind of touched on it before with the artwork promos are very heavy on the trees. There's that interesting shot of you very Lynchian through the trees.
Yeah.
And you've said that the album deals with themes of not just human growth, but the life cycle of trees as well. What was it that got you thinking about that for this record? And do you ever think about themes like that a lot in terms of the record, or...?
That goes back to lockdown as well. I read a book called The Overstory by Richard Powers, which is basically about trees. It's a book about several trees, and like the chapters are all, well, it's split into like four major chapters, which are again the life cycle of the tree. So starting from roots to the trunk to the canopy to the seeds, basically the life cycle of a tree. And reading that, and then thinking back to like mid 2020, we had a 4-month-old baby, and wasn't much we could do other than walking around the park. Yeah. So I suppose like doing that and reading the book at the same time, having an appreciation of trees, like the fact that they communicate with each other. There's stuff going on that we can't see, almost ethereal elements that are just, and they're everywhere. They're fucking everywhere, aren't they?
I feel this is turning into a different podcast. Yeah. No, but go on.
And then I got a commission in when it would be like late 2021 to write a film score, and it was from the Hinterlands Film Festival, and it was a really last minute thing. I had they said that I can't remember who it was. They had originally pulled out, so they needed someone to collaborate with a filmmaker. And it was still kind of the back end of lockdown, so we couldn't collaborate in person. And they was like, so basically you choose a theme, and the filmmaker will make a film about it, and you make a score to perform live at this film festival. It's like, okay, this sounds great. And I kind of like working to a strict deadline, so having the 3-month period to do it. And I mentioned the book, and I mentioned how I'd become interested in trees. And they were like, okay, well, I mean, that could be a cool theme. And the same people who run Hinterlands Film Festival also run the Timber Festival, which is a festival in Leicestershire in woodlands, basically. So it's kind of themed around trees, underneath the canopies of all of them. So yeah, they commissioned me to do this film, and it was working alongside this filmmaker and students from Skipton College, and they made a film about. Again, it was life cycle of trees, but through a year. So it was again split into 4, but this time into 4 seasons. So I wrote the soundtrack, and yeah, I decided to kind of think about it quite conceptually, I suppose, but in an avant-garde sense. I decided to do the whole score on synthesizers. I mean, the obvious thing would be to use acoustic instruments, sort of represent nature, but I kind of thought, because like I was saying, that weird ethereal nature of trees, let's use synths to sort of make it kind of spacey and odd. So we did that, and then again I performed with Brendan at the film festival, and then after that it was like we performed it, and then we did it again at Timber Festival the following year in the woods, which was amazing. We had to bring our own TV screen to show the film at the same time to perform it, which was a bit of a logistical nightmare in the woods, but we made it work. And yeah, and then basically I had this kind of unfinished film score there because we performed half of it live. There were some bits that were on track to make it time with the film. And I was like, well, I'm really pleased with this work. And so I decided to record it, basically. And that kind of started the point where it's like, all right, I'll use this as a thread or a theme to kind of start an album. And other pieces of music I'd written around a similar time were, like you say, about personal growth. And I kind of thought the way those themes linked up and mirrored each other were quite nice. So basically that's a fairly long-winded way around it, but that's how the tree situation came into existence, and how I kind of linked the themes together.
And do you find that, because you said there was obviously the growth of not just you as parents, but with an actual child as well, like, another living being. Was that something that spurned creativity as well for you, not just solo, but in your musical output?
Yeah, definitely. I was saying how Beatrix was only 4 months when lockdown happened, and obviously for a lot of people it was a really tough time, but for the three of us it was actually quite nice, just kind of having her as our sole focus. All my other work kind of was either cancelled or postponed, so I didn't have any kind of pressing obligation. So it was sleep train the baby, let's just concentrate on the baby. And it made that time go quite quickly in a way, or maybe it was slowly, I can't really remember. It was a weird time. And it kind of, it definitely did change the way I sort of approach creativity, because I couldn't just do it at any time. I had to sort of find time to do it and use, I suppose more of a schedule around a baby to work. That sounds like a sort of negative thing, but I think it sort of helped me creatively, because it meant that I had to give myself deadlines and work to a timeline, which I suppose I hadn't done in a kind of stricter sense before. Yeah.
And that kind of, ties in with other things that you've talked about in terms of what the record's about, and this finding time to do things when you've got a young family. The record touches on things like dwindling attention spans and, such things as social media addiction and that impacting creativity. So finding time to write music and record music can obviously be taken up with actual things that you need to do, like taking care of your child.
Exactly.
Rather than scrolling through Twitter. So, how much of an impact has that been on the creative process? Have you found that, the internet addiction and doom scrolling and stuff being such a hindrance when it comes to that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think it was doing, because I was in charge of all the socials for the last Dutch Uncles record.
Right.
And I'd find myself, I'd do an Instagram post and make sure it went on Facebook and Twitter and whatever. And then, everyone does it, but you can just find yourself in that Instagram hole, just like scrolling the same. And, obviously there are funny videos on there, but you can just whittle away hours of your day just by, watching shite. And I was realising that I was writing less because it was a necessity. I had to do that to promote the band, but I needed to find a way to do that without it taking up so much of my time in a negative way. And the start of last year, so basically, once we'd finished touring True Entertainment, I just deleted all the socials from my phone for like 6 weeks, and it was great, because then it meant that it was when we were doing that Stockport Plaza gig with Everything, that's just when I load it back up, share a poster for the gig, delete Instagram again. It's like, okay, this is the better way to do it, because I can't trust myself, and it's really annoying, isn't it? It's just, I still find that I will do it occasionally, but I have to remind myself to turn it off every so often, or leave my phone in a different room, because
that's the one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always find it interesting, because with you've got the band. That's the whole point of going on the socials, and then you're in and out, perfect. I don't go on Facebook other than to post birthday cake for breakfast stuff. And I always think, the people who have no skin in the game, they're just on it because it's social media. I always find that, spending hours on Twitter doing nothing fascinating, because unless you've got something to do, it does seem kind of a waste, even though, as you say, there are funny videos. But yeah, I mean, it's strange, isn't it? How do you combat that?
Yeah, I think it's the same with before Instagram. Twitter, I used to find I'd spend a long time on that, but that was for news, that was for, again, like self-promotion, but it was news, football, and now I don't use it at all, and I don't miss it.
Yeah.
There'd be the odd day where you're like, oh, that was a really good day on Twitter, but maybe that was like 1 in 5 years, like it's like where something comes to a head, something politically or something in the football world. It's like, oh, let's see what people are saying on Twitter. I would never think to do that anymore because it's a cesspit and it's just like
It's just scrapping and
just
right wing. Yeah.
it's a weird place now, and yeah, I log in again to post something, promote something, and see if anyone will read it, because there probably will be some people who would be interested in the band, for example, who don't use Instagram or Facebook, but they use X, so
Yeah. It's like the whole CD vinyl debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's people, you'd be surprised how many people are buying CDs at shows because everyone thinks that the vinyl boom is, or digital. But in terms of that, to flip that, what are some of the time wasters that you found were becoming like such a hindrance? Was there anything in particular? Like, I know there's those videos where, like there's a hydraulic press that presses down, which can take hours.
Yeah.
Dog, cat videos, was there anything specific that you were like, this is a waste of time, but I do actually like those videos,
Yeah, I think it was quite a lot of the sort of the sketch videos, like Tom Lawrenson, comedian.
Yeah.
Very funny. And then and there's a few others. I can't remember the names. Devon Palmer. Have you seen his stuff?
No.
And again, like, these guys are great, and yeah, you can, not only can you watch the one video they've uploaded, then you go on this. They've got fucking hundreds I can watch now. So yeah, it wasn't just like watching ASMR videos, or I probably did watch a lot of funny cat videos as well, but yeah, it wasn't anything too weird, I suppose, which is good.
Good to get that on record.
Yeah.
So, we talked about like the algorithms and stuff like that. I thought it was really funny that the song you put out, one of your singles, Ossia, if that's how you pronounce it, I think it's Italian.
Yeah.
Is that right? Had that great Oasis type.
Yeah.
And it was either a really unfortunate anagram or it was a great tie-in with the recent news. With that sort of thing, obviously it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but was there ever like a back of the mind thinking that, someone might see this and think, oh yeah, that's really, like an Oasis guy might come in out of nowhere and just love it and,
Yeah. What, someone misread it, maybe that would be
Yeah. Looking at it quickly rather than,
I think because it was coming out the same week that they were playing their Manchester shows, and I realised it was an anagram. It was like, yeah. So I just mocked it up and sent it to Matthew, and he was like, yeah, this is great. I mean, he loves Oasis.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
he went to it seemed like he went to every show. Was that right?
I think he went to 4 out of the 5 Manchester shows, and then 1 in London as well. So fair play, that's commitment.
Yeah.
So I think they played the same set every night.
Yeah.
But anyway, he said he absolutely loved it. Yeah, so like I shared it as a story on Instagram, and then Stephen from the label was like, "This is great. It could go viral." It's like, I don't think it will. I kind of feel like I've got a gauge of what but if you insist that I put it as a grid post on Instagram, let's see what happens, and then 18 likes later, here we are. Who would have thunk it?
You're in the big league
I know,
now, aren't you?
I know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like Matthew, your manager, was every email was talking about Oasis when he was promoting, your stuff, and like he was really pushing that image, and it was like, they're definitely cottoned onto this. So it's just interesting, to have that, and if there were 16 of those 18 were Oasis, people that came on board.
That'd be something, wouldn't it?
Can't beat that, can you?
Yeah.
So with the record itself, did you know that you had like a debut album set? Was there a period where you were like, the people you were working with, you were like, this is it, done? Or was there always like an end game in terms of, because as you say, timelines are quite tight in terms of what you've got available to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So did you know when you had it, or was it a case of there was a plan in place?
Yeah, I didn't really have a deadline for this because I was working on it with Brendan kind of sort of ad hoc over a few years. If he had some time, we'd go into record something for the soundtrack or for another track on that would make the record. And then we've been working on another project as well. So it was just like a lot of things on in tandem and sort of, thinking about what would come out first, and it's like, you know, I knew I wanted to get this out soon because there are some tunes on it that have been around for a while. For me, anyway, I wanted to get them out, to get them off my chest. But yeah, I think I only finished the last track probably early 2024. Finished writing it, recorded it, and then finished it, like had the album mastered towards the end of last year. So yeah, there wasn't anything that kind of surprised me. It's taken a while to put it together, but only for me. Do you know what I mean? Like for anyone else, it's brand new. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no point thinking about it. It's like, oh, that song's 4 years old in terms of when I wrote it, but for everyone else, it came out last week. You know what I mean? It's as soon as you put it out, it's not yours anymore. It's everyone else's. So let's whatever memories I have of writing it are irrelevant to someone listening to it in Budapest, which is on Spotify my most popular city at the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, it'll be all those Oasis fans from Budapest.
It could be, couldn't it? Yeah.
So we've kind of skirted around it, but I couldn't let you go without asking, you know, you've got the Dutch Uncles material in the works, so appreciate your solo record is literally about to drop, but is there anything that you've got in the way of, you know, anything concrete? Do you know what you're doing with the Dutch Uncles stuff, or?
Well, we've been to the studio a few times already, so we've got quite a lot of material down, and Duncan's been recording. It's just like getting all six of us in the same room is quite tricky now, with everyone having other jobs and kids, and you know, it's more likely that we'll kind of just bump into each other at a West game or watching footy on the telly or something. You know, it's kind of, we will find ourselves talking about it in twos or threes, but actually getting us all together to talk about, okay, what are we doing next, is an important step to actually figuring out how to get it finished. Now, I know we will, but it's just got to be patient, which is tricky, because when we've done it for the first 5 albums, it wasn't ever seamless, but you know, we knew what we were doing and we knew what needed to be done. Whereas this time, yeah, we know we've got some material that we are really excited about, so we just need to get it finished, don't we? That's it.
It must be interesting as well, you know, from a band perspective, that things must have changed to now where it'll just be the group chat rather than, and like you say, ones and twos and threes talking about it, rather than like, you know, whatever you did before WhatsApp was so big.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, going back to when we were working on Big Balloon, for example, we were in the studio together 2 or 3 days a week. You know, it was the main focus for everyone, which meant, you know, we probably wrote and recorded that album in 6 or 7 months. Whereas now we have to appreciate that it takes 2 or 3 years to kind of get an album finished. So, you know, we're constant chat in the WhatsApp group, constant memes and all sorts of crap in there. But it's yeah, that's also important.
Is there ever like a thought of, appreciate there's lots of little ones in the group now, but is there any thought, I imagine that boat's possibly sailed, of, you know, doing the retreat and doing the Welsh, you know, countryside, no phones and all the rest of it? Is that ever a thought, or?
We did that last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was one of the studio trips. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went there like with kind of without fully formed tracks, basically. So we knew we wanted to experiment whilst we were there, and yeah, really, I was just there for the week. It was during the Euros last year. So yeah, we watched a bit of footy as well as working on some tracks which may or may not make the record, but like it was we could make that work, you know. I suppose we couldn't do more than a week. You know, some albums we've been away for 3 weeks at a time, so it's like, yeah, the likelihood of doing that again is probably not until, you know, we're in our late 50s, you know. Album 8.
It's a bit of a long wait.
Who knows?